While I was in the hospital, my parents and sister told my 6-year-old adopted daughter she would be sent back to the orphanage. "You need to make space for the real children," my sister screamed. I didn't shout. I took action. The next morning, the whole family lost it. I had just been released from the hospital when my husband Michael drove me to my parents' house to collect our daughter. 3 days. That's how long she had been there. 72 hours. A blink for an adult, an eternity for a 6-year-old. I told myself it would be fine. My parents lived with my sister Rachel and her daughter Chloe, who was the same age as Leah. Built-in playmate, doting grandparents. It should have been fine. But the second the front door opened, I knew it wasn't. Leah was waiting in the hallway with her little backpack already strapped on. It was stuffed with pajamas and toys, her rabbit's ears poking out of the zipper. She didn't drop it. She didn't run into my arms. She just stood there, small and silent, staring at the floor. "Sweetheart," I said, arms out. Nothing. Not a smile. Not even a step forward. Behind her, my mother appeared, all cheerful brightness. "Oh, you're here." She's been an angel. An angel. Sure, if by angel you mean child who looks like she just witnessed a crime. Rachel drifted in next. Chloe stuck to her side. Chloe was grinning, smug in the way only a child who has never heard the word no can grin. Rachel's eyes flicked to me, and her mouth twitched into the faintest little smirk. My stomach tightened. Michael reached for Leah's backpack. "Ready to go home, kiddo?" She nodded once, stiff. No hug, no sparkle, no usual flood of chatter. Just silence. We left quickly. I couldn't stand one more second of my mother's fake smile or Rachel's look of victory. The car ride was worse. Leah sat in the back, Rabbit clutched in her lap, staring out the window. Normally, she'd talk the entire way home. What Chloe said, what they ate, some new game they made up. But that day? Nothing. I twisted in my seat. "Did you have fun with Grandma?" A pause, then a shrug. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" Her little voice was barely audible. "Am I taking too much space?" Michael's knuckles whitened on the wheel. "What?" My heart thudded. "I can be small," she whispered. "I don't need lots of toys." I stared at her. "Who told you that?" But she just twisted the rabbit's ear tighter and stared harder out the window. Back at home, things didn't get better. Leah hovered in the hallway, backpack still strapped on, like she wasn't sure she belonged. "You can put your bag down," I said gently. "We're home now." No movement. "Sweetheart, put your toy back in the box before dinner." That's when she snapped. She dropped the rabbit like it burned her, shoved it into the toy bin, and burst into tears. "I'm sorry. I didn't know it was out. I'll be good. I'll make space. Please don't send me away." I froze. Michael dropped to his knees instantly. "Leah, hey, no one's sending you anywhere." But she shook her head wildly, sobbing so hard her words came out in broken gasps. Auntie said, "I need to make space for the real children. She said I'll go back to the orphanage." The words cut through me like glass. I knelt beside Michael, gathering her against me. She was trembling so hard I could feel it in my bones. "Listen to me," I said, steady and low, forcing every ounce of calm into my voice. "You are my daughter. You are not going anywhere." Her big wet eyes locked on mine, desperate. "But Auntie said—" "Auntie was wrong." My tone was ice. "You are mine. Always." Her sobs slowed, but the damage was done. The rabbit dangled from her hand like a casualty of war. I kissed her forehead, smoothing her hair, rocking her gently until her breathing evened out. Michael rubbed her back, silent. "But me?" My mind was already racing. Rachel. Rachel, who had smirked at me in that hallway like she'd already won. Rachel, who had the audacity to tell my daughter she wasn't enough. They thought they could break her in 3 days. They thought wrong. Later that night, after Leah finally fell asleep curled around her rabbit, I stood in the kitchen with a glass of water, staring out into the darkness. Michael hovered in the doorway, unsure whether to speak. I didn't. Not yet. All I could hear was Leah's little voice, shaking. "I'll make space. Please don't send me away." And all I could feel was the fire building in my chest. They had told my daughter to make space for the real children. They had no idea the storm they had just unleashed. I didn't always know what it meant to be the unfavorite. As a kid, I thought it was normal that my sister Rachel got the biggest slice of cake while I got the crumbs. Normal that she got applauded for coloring outside the lines while I got scolded for not staying inside them. Normal that every family photo looked like she was the prize and I was the prop. It wasn't normal. It was favoritism. But I didn't have the words back then. Rachel was the golden child, always. She could spill juice on the carpet and be called spirited. I could bring home straight A's and get asked why they weren't A+. You get the picture. And you know what? I swallowed it. I learned my role. Keep quiet. Be useful. Don't expect too much. But some things stay with you, buried under your skin like splinters. Years later, I married Michael. Sweet, conflict-averse Michael. And we tried for children. And tried. And tried. Each month another failure. Each doctor's appointment another piece of hope chipped away. Eventually, the verdict came. My chances of conceiving were almost non-existent. So we turned to adoption. It wasn't a whim. It was years of paperwork, interviews, waiting, and praying that some child out there would become ours. And then, Leah. 2 years old, wide-eyed, cautious at first, but mine from the moment I saw her. She's 6 now, bright, stubborn, a little tornado of honesty. She knows she's adopted. We've never hidden it from her, but she doesn't remember the orphanage. At 2, you don't hold on to those memories. Orphanage to her is just a scary word she's picked up from books or movies, the kind where sad-eyed children stare out windows. She has no real memory of it, which makes it even worse that someone used it against her. At first, my family put on their polite masks, forced smiles, fake enthusiasm. "Oh, how wonderful," they said. "Of course we'll treat her like family." But I could feel it. The stiffness in their hugs. The way my mother patted Leah's head like she was a neighbor's kid, not her granddaughter. The way Rachel's smile never reached her eyes. And then the comments started. Always subtle, always sugar-coated. "It must be different from having your own. She'll always know she's not really ours." Little knives disguised as observations. I told myself it didn't matter. Leah had me. She had Michael. That was enough. But I was wrong. Because then the miracle happened. Against every prediction, every statistic, I got pregnant. 1 in 1,000, the doctor said. A fluke. A gift. And I was overjoyed. Not because Leah wasn't enough, but because she was. I wanted her to have a sibling. I wanted 2 children to love equally. My family's reaction? Not joy. Not celebration. Something colder. "Well, now you'll have a real child," my mother said, her voice sticky sweet. "Do you regret adopting now?" Rachel asked with that smirk I know too well. "The baby will need space." It could get confusing, growing up with a stranger in the house, my dad muttered. A stranger. That's what they called my daughter. Every time they said things like that, I smiled thinly and tucked it away. But inside, I felt it. The splinters of my childhood all twisting at once. Then there's Chloe, Rachel's daughter. Same age as Leah, but you'd think she descended from royalty the way my parents treat her. Chloe's drawings are framed on the fridge. Leah's, left on the table until they accidentally end up in the trash. Chloe is called our little princess. Leah? Oh, she's polite. Polite. That's what you call a coworker, not your granddaughter. Leah noticed. Of course she did. Kids always notice. She didn't say it out loud, but I could see it. The way her shoulders hunched a little when Chloe was showered with praise. The way her smile faltered when her own work was ignored. Then the hospital scare. 3 days under observation, hooked up to monitors, convinced at any moment I'd lose the baby. Luckily, everything turned out fine. I was released, healthy, pregnant, relieved. But while I was gone, my family had been busy reminding Leah of where they thought she stood. They didn't just compare her to Chloe, they compared her to the baby I was still carrying, and in their eyes, Leah came last. And now I understood the look in her eyes when I brought her home. She believed them, and that was the moment my fear gave way to rage. Perfect. Thank you for clarifying exactly what you want. I'll deliver part 3 in the same voice and pacing as parts 1 and 2, raw, tense, laced with dry humor, and full of cliffhangers. Around 1,200 words, no repetition, no drift into part 4. This will be the showdown chapter. Here we go. It was a Saturday morning when Michael and I finally drove to my parents' house. Leah was safely at her dance class, twirling her way through itsy-bitsy spider routines with other 6-year-olds, blissfully unaware of what was about to go down. Which was good. What I had planned was not for small ears. The car ride was quiet. Michael's hands gripped the wheel a little too tightly, his knuckles pale. "Are you sure about this?" he asked. I turned my head slowly, giving him the kind of look only a woman who has been pushed past her limit can give. "I'm very pregnant, very tired, and very much done. So yes, I'm sure." He shut up. Smart man. By the time we pulled into the driveway, my stomach wasn't fluttering with nerves. It was buzzing with rage, hot and electric, the kind that settles into your bones and keeps you steady. Everyone was there. My mother, fussing with a plate of cookies like she was auditioning for World's Best Grandma. My father, silent sentinel with his folded arms, the human version of a wet blanket. Rachel, perched on the couch like a queen, her husband beside her, nodding dutifully at whatever nonsense dripped from her mouth. And Chloe, of course, sprawled on the carpet with crayons and an audience that clapped at every line she drew. It was a family tableau, normal on the surface, rotten underneath. I didn't waste time with pleasantries. "What?" I said, my voice sharp as broken glass. "Did you say to my daughter?" The room went still. Even Chloe stopped coloring. My mother looked up first, smile already pasted on like frosting. "Oh, Julia, don't be dramatic." Leah misunderstood. Misunderstood? My laugh was dry, humorless. Because she came home sobbing that her auntie told her she needed to make space for the real children. Rachel straightened, lips twitching into that familiar smirk. She was in Chloe's space. She needs to learn boundaries. "Boundaries?" I snapped. "She's 6, Rachel." 6. The only boundary she should be learning is not to eat paste. Michael cleared his throat, but I held up a hand to silence him. This was my fight. Dad finally spoke, his voice low and measured. "You're too sensitive right now." Everything feels bigger because of the pregnancy. Ah, yes, the classic family move. Gaslight me into doubting my own ears. Sensitive? I tilted my head. Funny, I thought sensitivity was when you don't tell a child she's disposable. Rachel rolled her eyes. No one said she was disposable. Really? I shot back. Because she told me Auntie said she'd go back to the orphanage. That doesn't exactly sound like a Hallmark moment. Rachel shifted in her seat, just enough to confirm I'd hit the nerve. Her husband squeezed her knee like he was her emotional support animal. We didn't mean it literally. My mother cut in, her voice syrupy sweet. It was just to make her behave. Behave. There it was, their favorite excuse. I leaned forward. You told a child who doesn't even remember the orphanage but knows enough to fear it that if she didn't behave, she'd be sent back. And you thought that was okay? Silence. Rachel's mask slipped, just a fraction. Stop pretending Chloe and that girl are equals. They're not. There it was, the quiet part out loud. My father didn't flinch. My mother didn't gasp in horror. Rachel's husband nodded like she'd just delivered the Gettysburg Address. Their silence was louder than any words. I sat back, oddly calm. Thank you, I said softly. My mother blinked. For what? For finally saying it. Because in that moment, clarity settled over me like a cold, hard blanket. They weren't going to change. They weren't going to suddenly see Leah as theirs. They weren't going to apologize. They had never accepted her. They had barely accepted me. Michael cleared his throat again, this time louder. They'll never change, Julia. I looked at him, and for once we were perfectly in sync. No, I said. They won't. Which is why they'll never see my children again. My mother gasped, as though she hadn't been the one to carve up my daughter's worth with a smile. Don't be ridiculous. We're your parents. Exactly, I said flatly. And parents don't treat their children this way. Rachel scoffed. Oh, grow up. You've always been jealous. That old chestnut. The word they'd beaten me with since I was old enough to speak. I smiled thinly. Jealous of what? That you're the kind of person who tells a 6-year-old she's not real family? Congratulations, Rachel. Gold star. Her face flushed crimson. We didn't stay long after that. The air was toxic, the walls closing in with every breath. Michael and I walked out without finishing the cookies, without saying goodbye, without looking back. The drive home was silent, but it wasn't heavy. It was clean. Final. Finally, Michael spoke. So what now? I stared out the window, watching the houses blur by. Now? We cut them out. His jaw tightened. All of them? All of them. I turned to him, my voice steady as stone. They wanted space. Fine. They're going to get more space than they ever imagined. That night, while Leah slept curled against her rabbit, I sat at the kitchen table with my phone. There was a group chat, of course. One I'd been in since the dawn of time. Photos of Chloe, reminders about family dinners, guilt trips about not visiting enough. I opened it, stared at the little thread of messages. Then, with one swipe, I was out. Gone. I started a new chat. Just friends, a couple cousins I trusted, Michael. The people who actually mattered. And then I started planning my baby shower. This time, I wouldn't be the one begging for space. I would be the one taking it back. The phone calls started the moment the invitations went out. First my mother, her voice a shriek down the line. How dare you exclude us? We are your parents. Then Rachel, nastier. You're pathetic, Julia. Hiding behind that girl, poisoning her against us. You'll regret this. My father weighed in too, though his tone was calmer. This isn't how family works. You don't just cut people off. Really? Because they'd been cutting me off since birth. Slice by slice, comment by comment. When I stopped answering, the texts started. Paragraphs of guilt-tripping, veiled threats, attempts to rewrite history. I muted the thread. Let them scream into the void. But they didn't stop there. Oh no. They called around, spun their story to anyone who'd listen. A cousin rang me up, sounding bewildered. Julia, your mom said you banned them from the baby shower. Is that true? Yes. She said it's because you're unstable. Because of the pregnancy. I snorted. She told my 6-year-old she isn't real family and threatened to send her back to the orphanage. That's why she's not invited. Silence. Then a stunned, "Oh." Word travels. And with every "oh," another seed of doubt got planted in the wider family tree. Saturday afternoon, the house was glowing. Streamers taped across the living room, a cake from my friend Sarah on the counter, stacks of tiny pink and blue plates. Friends, a few trusted relatives, laughter bouncing off the walls. Leah darted between guests, handing out napkins like they were treasure maps, proudly announcing she was going to be a big sister. She beamed when people called her the helper or the best big sis. For once, she wasn't on the sidelines. I wanted to freeze the moment, keep it safe. And then the doorbell rang. Michael and I exchanged a look. He shook his head slightly, already knowing. I opened the door, and there they were. My mother, holding a bakery cake with sagging frosting. My father behind her, stiff as ever. Rachel striding forward like she owned the place, her husband dutifully lugging a giant gift bag. The room went quiet. My mother's smile was all teeth. "Surprise!" We couldn't stay away. Family is family, after all. Behind me, I could feel my guests shift uneasily. Some hadn't realized they weren't invited. Now the question hung in the air. Why not? I stepped aside. Because what was I going to do? Wrestle the cake out of her hands and slam the door? Number. Not yet. They entered like they were saints walking into church. My mother handed off the cake to Sarah, who nearly dropped it, and immediately announced loudly, "Oh, what a lovely gathering! This baby will bring the family together properly. Properly." The word landed heavy, but no one challenged it. Not yet. I stood near the fireplace, watching as they mingled with forced charm. Rachel clutched her gift bag like it was proof of her devotion, her husband nodding at her every word. My father hovered silently, the permanent shadow to my mother's sunshine. The performance was perfect, on the surface, but every so often, the poison slipped through. "Of course this one is different," my mother said to a group near the kitchen. "Your own baby, it's just special." I saw a cousin's eyebrows shoot up, but she stayed quiet. Rachel, half laughing at the punch bowl. "Chloe has been so excited. She says she'll teach the baby everything. It's different, you know, when it's blood." Blood. That word hung like smoke. Guests shifted. Whispers started. Still, no one said anything. I stayed silent too, calm, patient, because I knew what was coming. The breaking point arrived 10 minutes later. One of my friends crouched down to Leah, smiling warmly. "You must be so excited to be a big sister." Leah's face lit up, shy but proud. She nodded, clutching her rabbit. And Rachel, leaning toward her husband but not nearly quiet enough, muttered, "Please." "She's not even a real sister." The room froze. Leah's smile collapsed. My chest went cold. Rachel realized too late she'd been heard. She straightened, eyes darting, scrambling for a save. My mother jumped in fast, voice syrupy. "That's not what she meant." But it was too late. "Did you just say that?" my cousin demanded, eyes wide. Another guest shook her head in disgust. "How could you say that about a child?" "In front of her?" Leah pressed herself into my side, trembling. Michael's voice cut through the silence, steady and sharp. "It's time for you to leave." Rachel's face went scarlet. "This is ridiculous." "You're twisting—" "No," I interrupted, my voice low but carrying. "You just showed everyone here exactly who you are. And I believe you." My father tried one last time. "We didn't mean it like that." "You're overreacting." I barked a laugh, dry, bitter. "Overreacting?" "My daughter came home sobbing because you told her she needed to make space for the real children. And here you are, proving her right. My mother's mask cracked. Her voice rose. We are your parents. You can't just cut us out. Watch me. The silence that followed was absolute. They sputtered excuses, backpedaled, tried to plaster over the slip. But the room had already turned. Guests stared them down, lips tight with disgust. They didn't win anyone back. And me? I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to cry. I just pointed to the door. Get out! Rachel opened her mouth again, but Michael stepped forward, his face like stone. She said leave. And for once they listened. The door slammed behind them, the sagging cake abandoned on my counter like a bad joke. The room let out a collective exhale. But I didn't. Not yet. Because this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. It's been almost a year since that baby shower, and my parents, Rachel and her husband, haven't been anywhere near me, Michael, Leah, or the baby. Not once. Of course, they tried. The first attempt came days after the birth, a flood of messages. We want to meet the baby. Let's put this behind us. Behind us? They threatened to send my 6-year-old back to the orphanage. You don't put that behind you. I ignored them. Next came my father, standing awkwardly on the porch with a stuffed animal in his hands. Michael didn't let him get a word out before closing the door. And then came silence. Not because they gave up. Oh no, because everyone else started talking. The story spread like wildfire. What Rachel said, what my parents allowed, how they stood there while my daughter cried. People were horrified. Friends who once gave them the benefit of the doubt cut ties. Cousins stopped defending them. Neighbors looked the other way in the grocery store. They thought they could smear me as unstable. Instead, they burned their own reputations. Now, when their names come up, people don't say, "Oh, what a lovely family." They say, "Those are the ones who threatened to send their granddaughter back to the orphanage." That's their legacy. Meanwhile, my life feels lighter than it ever has. Leah no longer whispers about making space. She doesn't apologize for existing. She's too busy introducing herself proudly as a big sister. My friends are still here. The relatives who matter are still here. And the ones who aren't? They've erased themselves. They wanted space. They got it. And I finally got peace. On my fridge, there's a photo of Leah holding her baby brother, grinning ear to ear. This is my family. Complete. And nobody is ever being sent away. Do you think I did the right thing? Did I go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more. I came home for Christmas from medical deployment and asked my daughter, was the $2,400 I sent each month enough? She looked confused. What money? My parents went pale. My sister changed the subject. I didn't yell. I did this. 3 days later, there was a knock at the door. The turkey was dry. It always was. I didn't say anything. 6 months on deployment, and this was my reward. Lukewarm stuffing, fluorescent cranberry slices, and the same brittle silence I grew up with, disguised as tradition. My daughter sat across from me at the table. 18, first year of med school. Same bags under her eyes I used to have. Same posture, too. Back straight, like you're trying not to fall asleep or fall apart. Maybe both. She looked good, though. Tired, but good. That kind of tired that means you're doing something hard and haven't given up yet. I passed her the rolls. She smiled. I smiled back. At some point I asked, was the $1,400 I sent each month enough? My daughter blinked. What? The money. I sent while I was gone. She tilted her head, just slightly. What money? The $1,400 I sent you. Every month. Her fork froze, then dropped. Not dramatically, just enough to make a sound. Across the table, my mom flinched like someone had turned the lights too bright. My dad shifted in his chair. My sister suddenly got very interested in her wine. You sent that to me? My daughter asked. I nodded. Of course I did. Rent, books, food. I wanted you to focus on school. I thought you couldn't afford it, she said, then quieter. Grandma said, "Oh!" my sister chirped, loud and too cheerful. "Is that the pecan pie over there? I thought we were skipping dessert." I didn't look away. "What did Grandma say?" My daughter glanced around the table. "Just that. You were under a lot of pressure. That you wanted to help but couldn't. That I shouldn't bring it up because it would upset you." The silence after that wasn't dramatic. Just heavy. My mom dabbed the corner of her mouth like she was in a movie. My dad picked up the gravy boat and poured it like the table wasn't on fire. My sister cleared her throat and said something about coffee but didn't get up. "Wait," my daughter said. "You actually sent it?" "Yes." "To where?" "The usual account?" "Grandpa's." She turned to them. Not fast. Not accusing. Just confused. "You said she couldn't help." My mom stood up. "Well, this is getting unpleasant. I think I'll go put the kettle on." "You let me believe she didn't care," my daughter said. She wasn't yelling, just realizing. "She's being dramatic," my sister mumbled. "She's exhausted," I said. "She's 18, my sister snapped. "Not everything is about her." "She made it through her first semester of med school thinking I abandoned her." No one spoke. My mom busied herself with the teacups. My dad finally looked up. My sister poured another glass. My daughter sat still. Not angry, not crying, just stunned. Like someone had pulled a rug she didn't even know she was standing on. She looked at me. I looked back. And in that second, I knew she finally saw it. My dad cleared his throat. "Maybe we should all just take a breath." My mom straightened the salt shaker like that would fix it. "You said she couldn't afford to help," my daughter said again. "You said she didn't care." "She didn't," my sister said. "She's just rewriting the story now to make herself the hero." "I worked double shifts," my daughter said. Her voice cracked. "I didn't sleep." "Oh, for God's sake," my mom muttered. "You survived. Stop acting like it's a tragedy." "She made it through her first semester thinking I abandoned her," I said. No one had anything to say to that. I stood up. So did my daughter. "I'm coming," she said. I didn't argue. I didn't look at any of them. I just walked to the door. She followed. We didn't speak in the car. Not until we were a few blocks away and my hands stopped shaking. She was staring out the window, jaw tight. I wanted to say something. Anything. But I knew better. I've been her. Sitting beside someone who meant well, trying not to fall apart because if you do, you might never come back together. I pulled into the first gas station still open, parked under a flickering light. "Was it really every month?" she asked. Her voice was low, almost careful. "Yes," I said. 1,400 for you, 400 for their house. I sent it on the 1st, every month, like clockwork, through Grandpa's account, because of the exchange rate." She nodded once, stared out the windshield. Her eyes didn't blink. I watched her, trying to figure out what kind of pain was in her silence. Anger? Grief? Shame? Some blend of all three? "You thought I didn't want to help," I said quietly. She didn't answer. I almost reached for her hand, but stopped. She wasn't ready for comfort. Not that kind. Instead, I sat there and let the truth settle around us. "I thought I didn't matter," she whispered. "Like maybe you were finally free and didn't want to come back." I closed my eyes. "No," I said. "Never." We sat there a while longer, two people frozen in a gas station parking lot, trying to thaw 10 layers of betrayal. We drove to a small hotel on the edge of town. Everything else was closed, Christmas after all. The night clerk didn't ask questions. I gave him my card and didn't flinch at the price. The room was clean, quiet, dim yellow light. 2 beds, 2 chairs, 1 coffee maker that probably hadn't worked since the Bush administration. My daughter took off her shoes and sat on the edge of the bed. "I couldn't afford groceries," she said. Sometimes I skipped lectures just to pick up extra hours. And every time I thought about asking you, I'd hear Grandma's voice in my head. She's doing her best. Don't be a burden. I sat down beside her, close, but not touching. She made you feel like asking for help was a crime, I said. She nodded. So I just stopped asking. I swallowed hard. I know what that feels like. After my daughter went to sleep, I opened my laptop, pulled up the banking portal. First thing I did, canceled the $400 I'd been sending my parents every month. Gone. And then I just sat there, staring. If they stole this from her, what else did they take? My heart started racing. The house. My house. The one my sister Tara begged to live in while I was gone. Said renting was too expensive. Said they'd take care of it. Pay the mortgage. Keep it all up so I wouldn't have to worry. That was the deal. That's the only reason I didn't list it. I could have had tenants. Real ones. I could have made money. Instead, I handed the keys to my sister and told myself it was fine. Family, right? I clicked into the online mortgage account and stared. No payments. Nothing for months. I froze. My brain tried to rationalize it. Maybe the site was glitchy. Maybe it hadn't updated yet. But it was all right there. Month after month. No payment received. I sat there, laptop balanced on my knees, trying not to throw up. If she hadn't been paying it, had I just lost the house? 3 days later, there will be a knock at my sister's door, and nothing will be the same again. Let's rewind. At 5, I couldn't tell you how many moms I'd had. The one with the rabbit mug, the one who smoked menthols, the one who locked the fridge. I don't remember their names, just the smells, the ceilings, the different words for dinner. One woman told me I couldn't see a doctor because there aren't enough doctors for that. I think that's when it started. The wanting. The idea that maybe I could be the person I needed. I never grew out of it. My parents adopted me when I was 5.5. After years of infertility, tests, and just relax and it'll happen, they'd decided to open their home to a child who needed one. Their words, not mine. The first year was a Hallmark montage. New toys, warm food, matching pajamas. I was their project, and they were determined to get it right. I learned to say thank you without being reminded. I learned not to cry when I was scared. I learned to fit. They were trying, really trying. I call those the happy years. And yes, I still feel guilty for calling them that, because then came the miracle. When I was 10, my mother got pregnant, naturally, after being told it was a 1 in 1,000 chance. She glowed. They cried. The neighbors brought casseroles. And when the baby was born, everything changed. I became the extra, the before photo, the understudy who still hung around backstage. They didn't mean to. That's what people always say. But when the baby smiled, they clapped. When I got an A, they nodded. When she cried, they ran. When I cried, they asked if I was being dramatic. I started hearing it in whispers. That phrase, "You should be grateful we saved you from the system." Later it became, "You should be grateful we did all this for you." And I was grateful. I tried to prove it with grades, with chores, with silence. My sister didn't have to prove anything. She just had to exist. She had music lessons and birthday parties, and the kind of bedroom you only see in catalogs. I had poster putty and secondhand clothes. When she broke a plate, it was a learning moment. When I did, it was a character flaw. But I loved her. Of course I did. She was my little sister. She had no idea. When it came time for college, I didn't ask for help. It never occurred to me. Asking felt greedy. I thought I should be able to do it on my own. I told myself it would be romantic, grinding through 12-hour shifts and late-night study sessions. I thought I'd be some kind of self-made legend. In reality, I was bone-deep exhausted. I once fell asleep waiting for a bus and woke up to a stranger poking me with a pen. Still, I made it. Just barely. Once I got my degree and started working, I felt like I owed them. After all, they'd saved me. So I paid for things. Groceries, bills, vacation help here and there. When my sister went to college, I covered a chunk of her tuition. It was unspoken, expected. That's how our family worked. My success was their deposit slip. Even when I got married and moved abroad, the money kept flowing. My dad had set up an account optimized for international transfers. Better rates, fewer fees. So I used it. Every month. Like clockwork. My husband stayed abroad after we separated. I didn't. I came home with my daughter. She was 1. Fierce, loud, bright-eyed. I didn't have a lot, but I had her, and I swore she'd never feel like an afterthought. When she turned 18, she told me she wanted to study medicine. I said yes before she finished the sentence. But college is expensive. Rent, books, food, lab fees, and I knew my job wouldn't stretch far enough. So I signed up for deployment. It wasn't easy, leaving her, but the pay was better, and she was already moving into a dorm. I told her I'd send money every month. $1,400 for her expenses, plus $400 for my parents to help with their mortgage. Same setup, same account. Grandpa's. And for a while, I thought it was working. We spoke on Zoom sometimes. Not often. She always looked tired, distracted. I figured she was adjusting to student life. She never brought up money. I assumed that meant she was okay. I thought I was holding everything together. Until Christmas. Until that dry turkey and that one awful question. Was the $1,400 enough? And my daughter said, "What $1,400? That night, I opened the mortgage account again, this time really looking. No payments in months. For a second, I panicked. Was I about to lose the house? Had they let it slide into foreclosure? Then I saw it. Temporary hardship pause. Approved. Filed under my name. No foreclosure. Just a pause. I exhaled. Briefly. The house was safe. But someone had impersonated me. Filed paperwork. Claimed hardship. Faked my identity. There was only one person who could have done that. 3 days later, there was a knock at my sister's door. But first, I made a call. I called my friend Ethan. Ethan had been a broke law student when I was already working ER shifts and quietly paying his overdue dentist bills. He's a lawyer now, with a sharp mind and a better memory than he lets on. He picked up on the second ring. "Hey, stranger," he said. "Still off saving the world one shift at a time?" "Yeah," I said. "And apparently funding fraud from the sidelines." That got his attention. 30 minutes later, we were sitting across from each other at a nearly empty diner. Ethan in a hoodie and coat that didn't match. Me in jeans and the same jacket I'd been wearing since the airport. I didn't even bother with coffee. I slid my laptop across the table and opened the folder. Bank records, transfer logs, screenshot of the mortgage pause. He scrolled, then scrolled again, then exhaled. "She impersonated you?" "Looks that way." "And this account? Your parents knew the $1,400 was for your daughter?" "Yes, every month. Like clockwork." He clicked through the messages I'd forwarded. My mom thanking me for taking care of the kid. My dad confirming when the next deposit would arrive. My sister? Well, she didn't thank anyone. But she sure as hell cashed it. "And the house?" Ethan asked. "I have a written agreement," I said. "My sister promised to cover the mortgage while she lived there." "Did she sign it?" "She typed her name," I said. "Electronic agreement. I needed something on record for the bank since I was going abroad. They wanted proof it wouldn't sit empty." Ethan nodded slowly. "And you have the messages showing that the $1,400 was for your daughter?" "Yes." "You realize this is solid, not just civil. This could be criminal." I stared at him. "Will I win?" "You want them prosecuted or broke?" "I want them to stop pretending I owe them everything." He looked at me then, really looked, and said, "I think it's time to go knock on some doors." We drove to my house the next morning. It felt strange saying that. My house. After all these months. I hadn't seen it in over 6 months. I'd been planning to rent it out, maybe even sell it. But my sister had called crying about how hard it was to find a decent place. So I'd offered her mine, a roof over her head, in exchange for covering the mortgage, just like any tenant would. Except now she wasn't a tenant. She was a squatter with a credit card history of theft. Ethan stepped out of the car with a manila envelope. Calm. Professional. Like this was a Tuesday. I knocked on the door. It opened halfway. My sister blinked at me, then laughed. Well, well, look who finally came home. I brought you something, I said. She took the envelope. Opened it. Eviction notice? She read. Oh, honey, that's cute. Ethan smiled. Legally binding. Effective in 30 days. She rolled her eyes. Yeah, don't worry. I'm moving out anyway. Already bought my own place. I stared at her. You what? She shrugged. It's done. Keys are in hand. Thought I'd treat myself for Christmas. That was when I noticed the boxes behind her. Taped shut, labeled. Half the house already packed. She wasn't bluffing. And then I saw them. My parents. In the kitchen. Wrapping dishes. Helping. What's going on? I asked. You're all here? We're helping her move, my mom said, like it was perfectly normal. I'm sorry. How did she buy a house? With money, my sister said. You remember what that is, right? I stepped inside. Boxes. Tupperware. Framed pictures. Where did the deposit come from? I asked. My sister grinned. From not wasting cash on rent. Ethan raised an eyebrow. She means the mortgage she was supposed to pay. Tomato, tomato, she said. I turned to my parents. And you're fine with this? My dad crossed his arms. She needed a home. You weren't using it. I wasn't using it because I was working myself to the bone overseas, I snapped, to support my daughter. And you. Oh, please, my mom said. You act like we forced you. You took the money meant for her. We needed it more, my sister said flatly. Your daughter was fine. She was working 2 jobs, living on cereal. She thought I abandoned her. She didn't die, my mom said. Stop being dramatic. Ethan took a step forward. We'll be in touch. You'll be hearing from us again, this time about the mortgage, the theft, and the impersonation. My sister rolled her eyes. Go ahead. I've moved on. I looked at her. You stole from my daughter, lied to me, impersonated me to a bank. You think this ends because you taped some boxes? She smiled. You're just jealous I'm better at life than you. That was when I stopped talking. Ethan handed her the second envelope. It was thicker. What's this? A formal demand, he said. Repayment of mortgage value for 6 months. Restitution of stolen funds, $16,800 to be precise. And damages. She laughed. Damages? You impersonated her to pause the loan, he said. My sister shrugged. You should be grateful I have paused the payments for you, so it didn't go into foreclosure. You act like I trashed the place. My mom folded her arms. She's your sister. I turned to her. You told my daughter I didn't care about her. She was being dramatic. She skipped meals. She was 18. She should grow up. I looked around the room, at the woman packing china she didn't own, the man polishing silverware he never paid for, the sister who'd stolen a future and called it moving on. And then I said, I'll see you in court. That night, I went to see my daughter. She opened the door looking tired but calm. She had a paper in one hand and a pencil behind her ear. I'm sorry I didn't call earlier, I said. She stepped aside. I figured you were busy suing people. We sat on her bed side by side. I confronted them, I said. They didn't deny it. She nodded. I figured. I also found out they've been using your money to help her buy a house. Her face barely moved. Just a slow, sinking kind of stillness. Okay, she said. That's not okay. I mean, it makes sense. To them. I was always optional. Not to me. I know, she said quietly. I looked around her tiny room, notes on the wall, food wrappers, a second-hand kettle with no lid. You won't have to work 2 jobs anymore, I said. I'll make sure of it. She nodded. Do you hate them? I asked. I don't think about them, she said. I don't have space. I reached for her hand. This time, she let me, and we sat there, in silence. But this time, it felt like healing. They said it wasn't theft. That was their opening line in court. Their lawyer, some stiff in an ill-fitting suit, stood up, looked the judge dead in the eye, and said, "Your Honor, the money was a gift." I nearly laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so deeply, insultingly stupid that if I didn't laugh, I'd scream. $1,400, he said, per month, transferred through the grandfather's account. No formal conditions. That fits the legal definition of a voluntary gift. He actually looked proud of that logic. My lawyer stood up, calm as ever. We have text messages where the plaintiff clearly states the money is for her daughter's living expenses and tuition. The judge nodded. Let's see them. We handed over the screenshots. The ones where I'd said, just sent her college money for November, same amount as last month. And, please make sure it goes to her. And, if I miss the first by a day, just transfer it anyway, please. The opposing lawyer glanced at the texts and pivoted like a gymnast. Well, he said, that may be the plaintiff's intention, but there's no evidence the recipients agreed to those terms, and no legal contract was in place. I swear, if eye rolls were admissible, we'd have one right there. Then came the real circus. They brought my dad up to testify. He walked like he was going to a church pulpit, raised his right hand, swore to tell the truth. My daughter is a doctor, he began, and she's done very well for herself. When she started sending money, we thought it was her way of showing gratitude. We raised her, after all. We saved her from the system. We didn't ask her to send that money. She did it freely. He actually looked misty-eyed when he said it. Then my sister took the stand. And if my dad was a sermon, she was a full-blown one-woman play. She flipped her hair, bit her lip, spoke softly. I was going through such a hard time, she said. My boyfriend and I were barely scraping by. When she offered the house, I was so grateful. I said I'd do my best to cover the mortgage, but it was never, legally binding. My lawyer raised an eyebrow. Did you or did you not sign an agreement stating you would pay the mortgage in exchange for living in her home? She looked at her shoes. I mean, yeah, but that was just, an informal thing. Sisters help each other. Then came the kicker. They submitted the hardship pause as my idea. Their lawyer said I'd called my sister, panicked about losing the house, and asked her to file the pause on my behalf. She was overseas, he said. It was easier for her sister to handle domestic paperwork. I almost choked. My lawyer stood. Your Honor, that contradicts the signed mortgage agreement, and we have a recording, captured legally, of the defendant admitting she impersonated the plaintiff to the bank. The judge's head snapped up. Play it. So we did. It was from my phone. Audio I'd recorded the night we handed her the notice, right after she laughed and said she'd already bought a new place. I'd hit record before knocking at the door. Now it played on full volume in the courtroom. Ethan's voice. You impersonated her to pause the loan. Then my sister's voice, bright and smug. You should be grateful I have paused the payments for you, so it didn't go into foreclosure. You act like I trashed the place. The room went quiet. Her lawyer slowly lowered his pen. The judge leaned back slowly in her chair and said, Well, that's illuminating. From that moment on, their case deflated like a sad party balloon. The judge ruled in our favor. Full repayment, damages, legal costs. But of course, there was a catch. My sister didn't have the money. She'd used it, all of it, as the down payment for a house she now owned but couldn't afford. She begged for installments, cried in the hallway, said she'd go bankrupt, said it wasn't fair. The judge didn't care. 2 weeks later, after she failed to pay the court-ordered damages, the judge approved a transfer of ownership. The house she'd just bought, the one she was so proud of, was officially mine. Her equity in it came out to almost exactly what she owed. It wasn't fast, but it was, without question, satisfying. And just like that, the house she bought with stolen money was mine. The next day, I called my rental agent, 2 houses, 2 tenants, 2 income streams. I called my daughter. She didn't say, "I told you so." She just said, "So? We won?" I said, "We did." She said, "I quit my second job." I smiled. "Good. You deserve to sleep again." She paused. "Do you mind if I keep the barista one? Just like once a week? I kind of like it." "Sure," I said. "Whatever makes you happy." I went back to deployment for 6 more months. Not because I had to, but because I wanted a buffer. A little financial cushion before I came home for good. This time, everything was different. The money from the rentals went straight to her. Her rent, her food, her textbooks. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't just surviving, and neither was I. We Zoomed every Sunday. She showed me her notes, her stethoscope, her dorm, now tidy and quiet and hers. Sometimes she'd say things like, "It feels weird, how easy school feels now." And I'd nod, because I knew what she meant. When you've been drowning, breathing feels like luxury. 6 months later, I came home. We hugged in the airport parking lot. No speeches, no tears, just warmth. She had a light in her again. Her eyes weren't tired anymore. We found a small apartment near her campus. I didn't move in with her, God forbid, but we had dinner once a week, sometimes more. We talked about her future, about med school, about specializing, about life, and about family, or lack thereof. "I blocked Grandma," she said once, while stirring spaghetti. "And Grandpa. And Aunt Tara." "Good," I said. "I don't feel bad." "You shouldn't." We clinked forks like wine glasses. The house they bought with stolen money. Now it funds her future. And as for me, I don't miss them. Not their birthdays, not their guilt, not their silence. Some families break. Others get cut loose. Either way, you breathe better after. And for the first time in years, I can breathe just fine. So, did I go too far? Or not nearly far enough? Some people say family is everything. But what is family really, if it turns its back on your child? I'd love to know what you think. Let me know in the comments. And if this story made you feel anything, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you don't miss what comes next.